America is desperate, it's anxious, it's afraid that its empire is collapsing, and therefore it is lashing out against the world. When America won the Cold War, the entire world celebrated this. Remember when the Berlin Wall fell and the jubilation, exhilaration of the Germans when they could unify as a people. And there's great hope in the 90s that American hegemony would lead to Pax Americana, a time of peace and prosperity for everyone. And for the most part, this was true. I mean, if you were in Europe, if you were in the Anglosphere, if you were in China, then yeah, you had a very good time. But unfortunately, America started to become corrupt and arrogant. So after 9/11, America launched these wars in the Middle East for no particular reason. It destroyed Afghanistan as a viable nation state, destroyed Iraq, which in 1980s was a flourishing, prosperous middle-class nation. It destroyed Libya, it destroyed Syria, again, for no particular reasons. And so America started to become this bully in the Middle East in order to enact its certain ideas about the world, okay? And then you have this massive corruption, which led to the 2008 great financial crisis, which almost collapsed the entire global economy. So what's happening was that because America was the only hegemon, most countries of the world were sending their investments to America, and Wall Street became the most powerful entity in America. It led to the financialization of America. So it shipped its manufacturing overseas, primarily to China, and America focused on financial services. And that led to speculation, that led to gambling, that led to risky assets like derivatives. And ultimately, this system imploded in the 2008 great financial crisis. And not only did no one go to jail for all these crimes and these misdemeanors, but in fact, the financial industry was able to cement its local power over America. And this has led to, first of all, massive inequality in America, where if you're just an average person, the American dream is dead to you. You can no longer afford to buy a house. You can no longer afford to have a family. You can no longer afford to retire. It's led to massive inequality. It's also led to massive corruption, where the Washington has been completely co-opted by the financial elite. Both the Democrats and Republicans serve the financial elite of Wall Street. And the third thing is that it's led to complacency. It's led to arrogance. America no longer makes things. It just makes things up. I mean, America has become this fantasy land. And so, yeah, so the American empire was not sustainable. But at the same time, the American empire still has the greatest military in the world. And the Russians were really the first to challenge America's global hegemony by invading Ukraine. And at that time, the Americans did three things, right? The first thing that they did was they sanctioned Russia, which meant that Russia is no longer able to trade with anyone through the SWIFT system, the financial architecture of the world. So the SWIFT system, the Russians were banned from. Second thing that they did was split in theft, where $300 billion of Russian assets were seized by the Europeans and the Americans. $200 billion still sits frozen in European banks. A few months ago, the Europeans were discussing the possibility of using these Russian stolen money to finance the war in Ukraine. And the third thing that the Americans did was blockade or ask Europe to stop buying cheap Russian energy. We know exactly what happened afterwards. Okay, the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, and Germany was forced to pay 50% more for its energy needs from the Americans, liquefied natural gas from the Americans, and so the German economy basically collapsed, right? So by using its imperial powers, what America did was not really destroy Russia. Actually, America destroyed its reputation, right? Because if you can just steal money that people put in your banks, no one's going to put any money in your banks anymore. And so this has led to a massive downgrade in the power of the U.S. currency, the U.S. dollar. It's America cannibalized its own allies. Europe has collapsed economically. Germany is suffering really, really badly. And it's really emboldened the world to stand up against America. So remember what happened after the Russian war is that the aura of inevitability and invincibility that sustained the American empire start to be broken. And then you have these nations in Africa who started to seek self-sufficiency. They wanted national sovereignty over their own resources. And so they threw out, the French colonial powers, they threw out the French military, the Sahel, right? And so we're seeing this throughout the world. And so under Trump, the response is to show the world that America still is the global hegemon and that America has no peer adversary. And that's why we saw the kidnapping of Maduro, President Maduro from Venezuela, which is a blatant violation of international law. It was a complete humiliation of the Venezuela nation state as well as its people. And then, of course, remember that they paraded Maduro on the streets of New York as though he was this captured war prisoner. And so it's humiliating for him as well. And then after Venezuela, of course, you have this war in Iran. And this war in Iran was, again, meant to show the world that America still has it, that the American empire cannot be challenged. And now it's kind of blow up in their face, okay? But that's a background as to how this war started.